Welcome to Watching Comics with me, Chris Otto, where I share my thoughts and opinions on comic book movies and television shows. And on this week's episode, I'll be talking about Avengers Age of Ultron. I just got home from watching Age of Ultron about an hour ago, and I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about it for this week's episode of Watching Comics. I really liked it. I think I probably liked it more than I do the first Avengers movie. I think the plot makes a little more sense, maybe. I don't know, just something all around this film felt like a better film than the first Avenger film. I think the first Avenger film the excitement of seeing all the Avengers in the same movie, I think really carried the movie. And so watching it now with this, where it's not as big a deal to see all these characters in a movie together because we've seen it already, you get to focus more on the plot and the characters. And they did a lot to develop some of the characters that didn't get as much screen time the first time around. One of the early complaints I've been seeing online is the humor in the movie. Not a lot of it, maybe half of the jokes felt forced. And I would have to agree with that. Obviously, Tony Stark makes a lot of jokes. That's his thing. So to see him still making jokes, that's not a big deal. There's also a lot of humor in Captain America and Thor, being of a different time or of a different world. They don't always get the things on Earth, so sometimes there's humor in that. But at the same time, there's a lot of jokes trying to be made. I know Hawkeye tried to make some jokes. Some of them were funny, some of them weren't, but a lot of it, I think they're trying too hard to add humor to the movie where it didn't need it. So that's a complaint I see a lot of people have that I totally agree with. Also, you're also going to have comparisons between X-Men Quicksilver and Avengers Quicksilver. X-Men Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters, was really good. He was entertaining. He was fun to watch, whereas Aaron Taylor Johnson was a little bit more serious. Still kind of fun, having fun, Kept saying you didn't see that coming since he's so fast and everything. But in a lot of ways, and spoilers, if you didn't see that in the description there, I will be spoiling lots of things in the movie. This Quicksilver, in some ways, really only existed to die. He dies valiantly, saving Hawkeye and a little kid, but his death sends Scarlet Witch off the rails. She gets super pissed, kills like a bunch of Ultron robots, and then goes after Ultron, the one of the big Ultrons, and kills him because she's all pissed off that her brother died. So I can see how some people may feel that Quicksilver wasn't given much of a role because his only role was to die and make Scarlet Witch more powerful and want to do good. Because Scarlet Witch also gets a pep talk from Hawkeye at some point because she's scared, they tell the story that the twins, when they were kids, their building was, shelled and destroyed. So with all the explosions around her, it kind of freaks her out. And she's talking to Hawkeye, and Hawkeye says, the line he says is, "If you walk out that door, you're an Avenger." And I really liked that because then you see Hawkeye being overpowered by all these Ultron robots, and then she comes out and just starts destroying them, throws open the doors and starts destroying these robots. So it led up to Scarlet Witch eventually joining the Avengers. But yeah, it felt like Quicksilver existed just to die. So I can see how a lot of people will prefer Evan Peters' version of Quicksilver because he was given something to do. Avengers Quicksilver, not so much. Something that I really liked, that was the way they handled the twins was that, it didn't take any convincing to get them to side with Ultron or to then side with the Avengers. They made these decisions on their own, which I always like. I'm not into, I was afraid that it was going to be like they were brainwashed or something crazy like that, but no, it was just they had been experimented on and cared for each other. They knew that Tony Stark was Iron Man because, he told the world, and it was a Stark weapon that destroyed their building because a Stark missile landed in their building and didn't blow up. It just sat right next to them and said Stark on it. So they wanted to kill Tony Stark. So when they found Ultron and said that he wanted to kill the Avengers, they're like, well, yeah, we're totally for that. But then Scarlet Witch gets, since part of her powers is seeing what someone is thinking, she can't read Ultron's mind because he's a computer. But part of the plot in which they create the Vision, they use this basically 3D printer that prints flesh instead of, plastic, and gives him kind of a body. They put the mind gem from Loki's scepter into on the Vision's forehead. And once Ultron is putting his consciousness into this, flesh or whatever it was, that's when she could finally read his mind, see what his plans were, which was to exterminate the human race, which the twins didn't want. And that's when they left and were just like, screw this guy and his, robot apocalypse. But then they're in the market when they see Ultron fighting the Avengers, so they decide to help Captain America defeat Ultron. And I really liked that there was no mind control to make them fight the Avengers, and so it wasn't like, oh, they're actually good people. It was just, no, they decided they didn't agree with what Ultron was doing, and then decided to try and help stop him. Since I've mentioned him, the Vision was, I think, very well done. I don't know much about the character in the comics, but I do really like the character that I saw on screen. Again, played by Paul Bettany, because what happens is they're able to take this body that Ultron was trying to put himself in, the Avengers, take it back to Avengers Tower, and Tony is in the middle of trying to put Jarvis into the body when the rest of the Avengers come in, like, stop what you're doing, and then Thor comes in and finishes the job for him, uses the lightning to put the power in and creates the Vision, who I thought, again, like I said, very well done, really cool character. Like I said, I don't know much about the character, but what I saw in the movie was amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of the Vision in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now we get to Ultron. I'm not sure what I was expecting of the character of Ultron, because I started really reading Marvel Comics shortly after the recent storyline, Age of Ultron, that the movie is named after. I know it doesn't follow that storyline, but it is named after that storyline. So I never read that. I'm familiar with Ultron's backstory, but I'm not sure how he is portrayed in the comics. And the way he was portrayed in the film was very different from what I expected, because the AI I'm used to is Jarvis, who, yeah, he's got a little bit of an attitude to him, and he likes to give Tony a hard time every once in a while, but he still sounds and acts like a computer program. Ultron, on the other hand, was very snarky and sarcastic, and the performance was phenomenal by James Spader, but in a lot of ways it felt like I was just watching James Spader's character from The Blacklist, Red, in robot form. You put a fedora and three-piece suit on him, and it's Reddington from The Blacklist. So while that's a cool character for James Spader to play in the Blacklist, when he's supposed to be an AI controlling robots, it felt weird to have him have such a human personality. I mean, obviously, he is the ultimate AI in artificial intelligence. So I guess it's maybe that's the point, but still, it felt really weird to have him saying some of the things he said. 'Cause I know he even tried to be like sarcastic and funny at times, which I felt was, again, some of the forced humor in the film. But I don't know, something about the portrayal, as much as I love James Spader's portrayal, something about it felt weird. One of the things that I think the film also did really well was set up future movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They mention Wakanda, where Black Panther is from, so I'm looking forward to that. And at the end of the film, they show that there's a new Avengers headquarters facility. Captain America asked Black Widow, who do we have? And it's the new Avengers. It's War Machine, Falcon, the Vision, and Scarlet Witch. So I'm looking forward to future movies that feature those characters fighting alongside the Avengers. It was a little disappointing that Falcon didn't get any action. War Machine did, but it was a shame that Falcon didn't get to have his scenes fighting alongside. But I mean, he did get. Well, I mean, even War Machine got Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, some parts at least. Falcon got all of his action in Winter Soldier. So I look forward to more than likely Infinity War when we'll see the Avengers we've already seen, War Machine, The Vision, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, most likely Spider Man. By then, they'll have introduced Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Miss Marvel. By the time we get to Infinity War, there's going to be a lot of Avengers. And you're also going to have the Guardians of the Galaxy. So it has me really excited for what the Marvel Universe has in store, because then in the middle of the credits, you see the weapons room on Asgard, and you see the walls opening up behind the Infinity Gauntlet, and it's floating there. And then Thanos walks in, puts it on, and I forget the exact line he says, something along the lines of, I guess I'll do it myself, something like that. So who knows what it is he plans on doing, more than likely just getting the Infinity Stones so that he can use the Infinity Gauntlet and cause all sorts of damage. But like I said, it has me really excited for what's to come. As I mentioned, this film did a good job of giving some of the characters that haven't gotten as much focus or haven't gotten their own film more of a focus. Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man have all gotten their own films, have all gotten multiple films focused solely on them. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk hasn't gotten his own film. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow hasn't gotten her own film. I mean, she had a huge part in Iron Man 2 and Winter Soldier, but you haven't seen much, of her other than that. And Hawkeye has gotten nothing. Not that I care. I don't like Hawkeye at all. Purple Green Arrow. But it was nice to see those three characters get more characterization in this movie, because, especially Hawkeye, because he's piloting one of the jets and is like, oh, I'm taking you guys to a safe house. So they get to this farmhouse, which I knew was part of the plot, that they were supposed to go to Hawkeye's farmhouse or something. And he walks in to the house and says, honey, I'm home. I'm like, well, that's a weird thing to say. And then, it turns out he has a wife. And then two kids show up. And even Tony Stark is like, she must be an agent. And they're little agents, because there's been no mention of the fact that Hawkeye has a wife and children. You know, everyone's assumed that him and Black Widow were supposed to get together. You know, Black Widow even wears an arrow necklace at some point in Winter Soldier. So everyone kind of assumed that, and here it turns out he has a wife and children. So it was nice to see that, and it did address the fact that, you know, at least in my opinion, Hawkeye is kind of useless. But, you know, they do their best to make it like, no, he's so important. Like his wife tells him, like, he needs to. He's kind of the normal guy on the team. You know, you have the super soldier, you have a god, you have Dr. Banner turning into the Hulk, you have Tony Stark with all his armor, and then you have Hawkeye, who's a guy with a bow and arrow. Like I said, even though I don't like the character, it was cool to see him get more of a focus. There was also a focus on the Hulk and Black Widow because the opening scene, which was an incredible action sequence of all of the Avengers fighting soldiers to get to the building where Strucker and Dr. List and the twins were hiding, and you see Hulk, you know, doing his whole Hulk thing, and then Black Widow comes over, and they call it, you know, lullaby time or whatever they call it, and she, you know, touches the Hulk's like arm and hand in a certain way, you know, gets him to calm down, touches his arm and hand, and, you know, it gets him to turn back into, you know, Bruce Banner. And you also see after that they're at a party, you know, Black Widow is flirting with him, but he's either clueless or thinks he doesn't deserve it or whatever and doesn't really act on it. You see the two of them another time in Hawkeye's farmhouse. They're talking and they have this moment where they're opening up to each other about why they can't be together and be happy and have a family. And that was a really good scene. So it was nice to give these characters that haven't had a film to focus on them get more screen time and get more of a characterization. One thing that I was surprised and found rather interesting, the rumors going around was that the Hulkbuster armor that would be seen in Age of Ultron was going to be a point of contention and would lead to Captain America Civil War. That would give context for why Tony and Captain America go head to head. This idea that Tony has, you know, backup plans to stop all of the Avengers. That turned out not to be true at all. It's explicitly stated in the movie that Dr. Banner designed the Hulkbuster armor to stop him, because there is a part in the movie where Scarlet Witch, when she's fighting for Ultron, puts Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, and the Hulk into these dreams, and the Hulk is getting pissed off, destroying an African city, and Tony has to fight him with the Hulkbuster, and that's when they use the Hulkbuster armor to stop the Hulk. And it's stated before that Dr. Banner designed that armor just for that purpose, or for if he was out of control, he could be stopped. Not sure what Civil War will be about. I think it's going to be more about the Avengers that work for S.H.I.E.L.D., working for the government, and the agents and the Avengers that have nothing to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. Going head to head. So like I said, this movie really got me excited for what's to come in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that just about wraps it up. As usual, if you think my opinions are wrong, or if you think I left something out when talking about Age of Ultron, let me know. Facebook.com/watchingcomics or on Twitter @watching_comics. I'm Chris Otto. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.